Today is the day to start seed, so finally time to start the lisianthus, stuff like that. We'll go through those in a little minute here, but real quick, what's going on here is those are mosquito dunk pellet things. A couple years ago I bought a jar of them, and I don't know if they're still good, but I figured I'd try. But not for mosquitoes in this instance, it's to try to curtail fungus gnats in the starting mix that I'm using. The starting mix I've been using the last 2 years is this Sunshine Mix number 4 with mycorrhiza. I find it at Lowe's. It is like $35 for that size of a bale, but that's still way cheaper than like the BP Pro Mix stuff that I see other people using. So for me, it's worked really well, and enough that I continue to buy it. And then we've got a number of different trays we'll get into. Down here is a tub that I keep my excess mix in. These are cafeteria trays that I've done soil blocking onto for the last year or two. They work pretty well. They do flex quite a bit when there are seedlings on them. So as they get heavier with water and soil, they do flex. But fiberglass trays were definitely out of the budget for me still. So that's what I'm working with. Up here we've got a couple different trays that I bought last year to try. So these are air-pruning trays from Never Sink Tools. And they don't know who I am. Again, nobody knows who I am. I'm just telling you where I got stuff. And I liked these a lot. This is, I think, a 128 cell tray, and this is a 288. This is what I'm going to be doing my lisianthus into today, because I have plenty of them, and that's a lot of lisianthus in one small area, so that's really exciting. Something I didn't mention with these is, here's a small soil block. There's 20 3/4 inch cubes in one of these, and I can squeeze, what is that, nine of them on here, which makes 280 cells. So I can fit a ton of seedlings on here with these little guys, and they take up the same amount of space on a rack as one of these trays does. So that's been really nice. We've got tape to label the trays with. I got myself out a fresh new garden marker because I like having a fresh new tip when I'm getting started. I've got 2 kinds of gloves. I'll probably use these as I soil block because I tend to get blisters from using those too much. We've got toothpicks and a bowl to put seeds into to like get them out. These are helpful for really tiny seeds if you're going along and you only want to do 1 seed per cell or something like that. I also have one of these that I've never used, but I figured maybe today I would give it a try if any of the seeds seemed like the right size for it. I've got a whole bunch of tags over here. I'm not sure I'll use those today. And then back in here, we've got the soil blockers. I've only ever used the 2 sizes in the front. So this 20 cube one, and then this one makes 5. I do plan to use this larger one this year, maybe for tomatoes and stuff, because I've been using that middle size one, and I think they would benefit from having this larger size instead. And then found this on the street at some point somewhere. But it comes in really handy for scraping the bottom of these. So once you pack the soil in, I like to really firm it in and make sure all the voids are filled, and then use this handy dandy tool to just scrape the excess off the bottom so they sit flat on the tray when we get there. Over here we've got more trays. This is full of those 104 cell size trays that I was using with the native seeds. And then that's about it. For seeds, we've got starting, we're going to do the eucalyptus. I have one more variety that's supposed to arrive next week, so I'll just have to add to that tray. I think I'm going to soil block these and just leave some extra blocks in the tray for them. We've got foxglove, so these are going to be all either things that take a long time to grow, like the eucalyptus, or things that are really cold hardy, because I'm trying to just get them jump started and then out to harden off really fast. So we have a couple different varieties of pansies. We have a handful of varieties of, Icelandic poppies, which I haven't had a ton of experience or success with, so we'll see if this year is the year, I guess. Then we've got a handful of different delphiniums. So I'm pretty equal opportunity. I buy from all the seed companies because everybody seems to have a few things that the other people don't. And so I end up buying a lot of seeds from a lot of different folks. This is all the lisianthus seed. Pretty much all of it is from Johnny's or Geo Seed. The Geo stuff is left over from last year. The Johnny's is fresh this year, so we'll see oh, what is that? Nope, that's dianthus. I'm mixed up here. So we'll see. I've heard a lot that pelleted seed, which is what lisianthus typically comes as, doesn't have as good of a shelf life. Like, it doesn't hold on as well year to year, but I've still had really good germination year to year with the stuff I got for Johnny's, so I'm not really concerned about it being not having the strongest germination rate. The other thing we're starting today is the dianthus. So we've got several different varieties here. I really wanted to try a first year flowering type this year, so I splurged on some Amazon series seeds. I really wanted to like buy every single variety in the sweet series, but I already bought way too many seeds this year, so maybe next year. So that's what we've got going on, and then somewhere I have a post-it with some more stuff on it that I thought I was going to do. Like, I might start our petunias today because they're really cold hardy, and there's just a few other things that I was thinking about starting, but I think I might wait another week or so for things like onions and things like that, because I can similarly put those out and they can just hang out in the greenhouse while they harden off and that kind of stuff, and wait for the water to get turned on. So quite a bit to get done today, actually. The other thing I've got going on is a blank piece of paper so I can write down. I like to write down what I started, the date, the size of seed tray it was started in, to see if that has any influence on anything. And then I typically leave space to write when they germinated, and then when, like, if I have any notes about it, like if the germination was really strong or really poor, or if it seemed like they did really well in these trays or would have benefited from being in soil blocks, that kind of thing. So that's the gist of it, and it's going to be great. I have a lot of foxglove seed, but I don't really want to grow it forever, so I didn't buy any new foxglove this year. I'm just going to use up what I have. Otherwise, a lot of this stuff is things that I grow year to year. So there's like a nice little bit of dianthus out there already. You've seen my lisianthus and how excited I was about it. The delphiniums I could do better with, so I did plant some in the fall this past year. So I'm hoping those overwintered. We'll see what happens. So every year I've been adding a few more, but I really want to go big on these because I just love them. There were some, it's a pity they don't have pictures on the packets, but I'd way rather have the information that they do have. You've probably heard other folks say Johnny's has a ton of information on the back of the packet, so it gives you how to start everything. Swallowtail Seeds has something similar. It's not quite as thorough, but it's plenty thorough to get going with. Other companies don't put that information, so Geo just basically has like the lot number and what it is and that kind of thing. So there's definitely a range. Siskiyou Seeds, this one's relatively local to me. This one's more local to me. I'm excited about them. Uprising Seeds in Bellingham, which is in northwestern Washington. Anyway, now I'm rambling about seeds, which is absolutely on brand, but I should get to it. In my never-ending bid to be more organized, I started out by writing down all the varieties I was starting and the type of tray I was putting them on, and then the order that they were written down on that sheet is the order I seeded them into the soil blocks in the trays, just to keep it pretty organized and to keep it easy to see which variety is which as they're germinating and that kind of thing. I also didn't end up starting petunias, but I did start columbine. Then I moved on to soil blocking, getting that all prepped. The material, when you soil block, you really want it to be fairly wet because otherwise it's not going to hold shape when you're pressing the blocks out. So it needs to be fairly sludgy, and it is just a little bit of experimentation to get the kind of texture and wetness right. So I have a couple years of experience with that. So the first one always comes out like a pancake. The first tray might come out like a pancake, The first one's just to test, and you just kind of have to keep going from there. And then I cleaned up a little bit, started seeding, labeled the trays with the corresponding numbers of like what's going to go into them. That bigger tray is eucalyptus seeds because they're going to be in those soil blocks for so long. I used that largest soil block that I showed earlier. And then I did smaller trays with all the other varieties that I was showing you. So some I just did by hand, a few I did with the whole toothpick situation, which is not my favorite. I have to stop and stretch every tray because my neck gets too stiff. I'm sure there's more ergonomic ways to do this, but this is already an improvement on my past setup where I just did everything on the floor. So every year, get a little bit better at it, right? So it's been 5 days since we put these seeds on the trays and put them under these lights. My setup is pretty basic. It's what a lot of folks use. Let's back up a little bit. So this is a big baker's rack. It's a 6 foot tall one. It has 2, 4, 5 functional shelves with lights, or lights will go on them eventually. I have 2 of these racks in this room. We've got 3 of them that have these 4-foot long heating mats on them. All of those mats are hooked up to a thermometer. I messed up last night and I pulled this probe out. So this probe is what tells it how much to heat. This probe was just like dangling this morning, which was not great. So the trays are a lot warmer than I want them to be. But the only heating mat that is on right now is this one, because I needed it for some of the stuff that's up here, namely the eucalyptus, which yesterday I saw some tiny babies coming up. So let's see if we can see them on film at all. Ooh, you can almost see one in there. Do you see those little cotyledons? Beautiful. The other thing we've got coming up pretty much immediately, the first thing to come up was those Amazon cherry rose, I think is the variety I got, dianthus. So the dianthus are coming right along. Not really any action over here on the foxglove tray yet, but that's not crazy. These trays are just covered in saran wrap. It's not the best option. I should put something down there to elevate it off there, because it will pull the seedlings up before their little root taps into the seed cell sometimes. But that is what it is. I'm working with what I've got right now. The pansies just starting to germinate. I had these lights off until this morning because I'm pretty sure these need a little bit of darkness to germinate, and they were germinating in the dark. And then there's Icelandic poppies on the back there that were just barely greening up, but I don't think I would be able to catch that. This is either delphinium or columbine, not sprouting yet. Not at all surprising that it's not doing anything yet. So 5 days, already progress. None of the lisianthus is doing anything yet. Not at all surprising. The other thing I have going on, if I can find it real quick, is everything, well, not everything. So the lights are set on a timer that is set for 14 hours. Let's flip that around real quick. So here's the cord from the light. These lights are all 4-foot long shop lights. So they're linkable lights that you can kind of chain together. And there's quite a few lights on this rack. So there's 2 per shelf, and they're pretty close to the seedling trays, so not terribly far away. And then we've got them plugged into this timer, which is set to run light for 14 hours a day. So it kicks on at 5 a.m., turns off at 7 a.m., p.m. rather. So they get quite a substantial amount of light. And then the heating mat is set on its own thing. It's not on a timer. I do strongly recommend having these kind of temperature regulators set up for your heat mats, because if you do it right, like I just demonstrated I didn't, it should keep it at a really pretty even and steady temperature. And that's really important for germinating some of those crops that really like warmer temperatures, especially like tomatoes and eggplants and peppers, which we will be doing in another month or so. I think I usually start the peppers and eggplants fairly early because they just take a little while. But that's where we're at. That's the setup. Underneath these mats, I do have cardboard set on the shelf, so it kind of acts as a buffer and makes it flatter, and then also pushes the heat up instead of just letting it radiate out everywhere. There's also just chunks of cardboard on all the shelves to help support the trays so that they don't get hooked in the slats of these baker shelves. But that's about it. We've got little baby seedlings. There's a different variety of dianthus coming in. And that's pretty exciting. Exciting stuff.